Hey, everybody. I am Stephanie Goss, and this is another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. This week on the podcast, Andy and I are tackling an email from the mailbag, and I share some personal stories on this one because I could have written this letter at one point in the not so distant past of my career as a manager. And the big questions have to do with, what do you do when the team seems to lack initiative? Is initiative something that can be trained? I've had this conversation with myself and with my peers more than once. This was a fun one to get into with Andy, so let's get into it.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie. You better work, Goss. You better work, Goss.
Better work. You better work.
Yeah.
How's it going, Andy Roark?
It's good. It's good. Boy, it was a beautiful day here today.
Yeah.
The spring is springing in South Carolina. Yeah. I am going to wrap this. This is the last thing I'm doing before I go to get on a plane. I have to go to bed. It's one sleep, and then I'm going to go get on a plane. I'm going to the Music City Vet Conference in Nashville and flying directly there from there to the Western Vet Conference in Las Vegas. And so big road trip coming up. I got my bags almost packed. I'm going to be fired up and ready to go. How about you?
Things are good. It is busy. We are in false spring, which is like the 1 week that we get in usually about this time, end of February, beginning of March, where the sun comes out in Washington. And it's not warm by any means. I mean, for us, it's very warm, but it's not actually warm. But the sun comes out and then it starts to rain again. And there might be some more snow. There might be some more rain. There will be more rain because summer doesn't come until after the 4th of July. So, I got a long way to go. But it's sunny today and all the windows are open. And, it is great. I am happy.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
It's amazing
cool.
what a little thing like sunshine can do for your mood. It's
a big deal. Yeah, I went and stood outside yesterday. Yeah. Like a
plant.
Lizard,
Turn your face up at the sun.
Vitamin D. I was just like, this feels really great. I think there's something really lovely about being able to be outside. I see the flowers about to bloom and I'm like, I'm going to get leveled by allergies, but not yet. Not yet. It's coming.
Not yet.
Totally
man. Well, we have a great mailbag this week. I'm excited about this one. And it's funny because I get this question, some form of this question a lot when I talk to other managers because I think this is going to be one of those episodes where everybody is like, oh my God, are they talking about my clinic? Even though it's just super general. Yeah. Because we got a manager who was like, what the hell do I do when nobody on the team has initiative? Yeah. They were like, their question was, can you train initiative into people?
Yes.
Because there is a team that seems to be a great group of people and they can't seem to, for the life of them, stay busy without someone directing them and bossing them around all of the time. The hospital's well staffed. They have a good tech to doctor ratio. They've got lengthy appointment times, but without somebody standing there driving the process, everything seems to move at a snail's pace and not a lot of people on that team who take the initiative to just do the things without somebody telling them what to do. And so they were asking, is this a personality thing? Like we have too many followers and not enough leaders. Can we train them out of this? Basically the leaders in the hospital are struggling with feeling like they're babysitting a team of people. And aren't we all adults and shouldn't we be able to just show up at work and do our jobs and not have to tell people what to do? And so it's super funny to me for two reasons, because I get asked this a lot. How do I not have to micromanage my team? But also because I've been working back in the practice a little bit. I've been doing some relief PM work, and I was just working at a hospital where I have never in my life felt like I watched so many people wait for direction and just stand around. And I asked them, I was like, what is the deal? And they were like, it's always been that way. It's our culture. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my worst nightmare. As a person who, I guess part of it is being neurospicy and having ADHD, but I cannot imagine sitting still and not just finding something to do. It would just drive me crazy. So I'm excited to dive into this from a leadership perspective, and answer the questions. Can you actually train initiative? Which I think the answer for me is yes. but also to a degree, but also like, how do you get over that? Like, how do you get over it? How do you get out of this cycle where nobody seems to be doing things on their own and everybody has to be told what to do?
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. And can you train initiative? Yes, sometimes.
Yes.
If it depends on the person. Do they want to do the thing? Some people just don't have initiative in them. I don't think that they do. But I do think those people are few and far between. And there's a lot of other reasons that people act like this and wait to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And you certainly can train them. We'll start with headspace. The big waving flag for me is this seems to be systemic. Now, if you said to me, I have a technician who will not take initiative.
Yes.
Can I train this person? I would say, I don't know.
Yes.
Possibly, but they have to decide that they want to take initiative. But the fact that this seems to be systemic, I say, I bet we can fix this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more optimistic than
Agreed.
a person that we've tried to coach that has not changed.
Yes.
And so I do like that. So my headspace initially is, there's probably something here. I think you already alluded to this a little bit too, Stephanie. I think, our first action step is going to be some diagnostics for sure, is to be like, where is this coming from? Mm-hmm. And so I think what you shared in your story, I'm getting the action steps here, but why are we doing this? And I think that matters. I want to be supportive of a writer for sure.
Yes.
I will say there's a couple of the things that I see around this are we don't take initiative because that's how it's always been. Mm-hmm. I see one where the doctors all want different things. And so we are afraid to take action because we get punished if we do the wrong thing by the doctors, or there's so much uncertainty that we don't know what we're doing. Yep. And then the third one is we just get our hands slapped in general. Even if people aren't doing different things, we get our hands slapped in general for taking initiative. Yeah. I had this experience early in my career because I wrote an article. One of my first articles was about the single thing that I think makes a great vet tech or a vet assistant. And it's the ability to work independently, right? It is take initiative, understand what we're doing, and think and plan ahead and work ahead so that things are just rolling. Sure. And I think that is underappreciated. The feedback I got when I wrote that was, like by a lot of people who were technicians, were, Andy, we would love to do this. You have no idea how we get our hands slapped if we actually behave this way. And I didn't thought of that, and I didn't know that at the time, but I've always remembered it. And so anyway, I think a big part of this is what is going on? Yeah,
I agree. My answer, like you, is yes, I do think that you can coach it. There are some people who innately just are not self-starters, and they may not be the right fit, or they may be the right fit in moderation, but I think the bigger question is, why is that happening? And I think from a headspace perspective, you have to be willing to look at that. It's an action step, but it's also a headspace perspective in terms of honest examination of your team, your culture, your leadership style, because you brought up some of the great reasons. Like, do they not know? Is there a lack of clarity? Do they not know what they're supposed to be doing? Is there a lack of expectations set around how they're supposed to be doing it, when they're supposed to be doing it? What are the expectations? Are they afraid of making mistakes or getting their hand slapped, like you said, or are they afraid of failure? Like, has there been culturally, there could historically have been problems, because like to your point, systemic, right? It's from this letter seems very systemic. There's something bigger going on here. And so I think looking at the why and trying to parse out where is it coming from and why is it happening is really important, because your action plan is going to depend on where it's coming from and why it's happening.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think, I say this all the time, but, I look at people and I see them as simple animals, and I don't care how smart you are. And that's not about groups of people. That's all people, human beings. We're fairly simple animals. And if this group of animals is behaving in a certain way, it is because they have been positively or negatively reinforced into that behavior. That's just how it works. And so when you go, my whole team is gossiping, I would say something is either positive, something is positively reinforcing gossiping behavior. Like, let's figure out what it is. If my whole team shows up late, I was like, well, this has been positively reinforced or negatively reinforced to show up on time. It's kind of always that way. And so to me, it's going to be the answer and the problem are both the same. Something is reinforcing this behavior of not taking initiative, I suspect, and it may just be inertia. And the way to get out of it is going to be to reset that initiative or that incentive system so that the behavior that we do want is getting consistently positively reinforced. And so I think that that's got to be the headspace going in as, hey, look, let's not get hung up on this.
Yes.
Let's get curious. I think it's got to be the first thing. And then let's go try to understand where the friction points are that are holding our team back.
Yeah. And I think the second, so one of the reasons why is that there can very much be within a group a learned helplessness. And that's a real thing. And I will tell you, so there's a point in time in my management career where I could have written this letter, and it was not one of my most shiny moments. And in fact, it was a more recent managing experience. And, so when people are like, oh my gosh, you've been a manager for so long, like you have all your stuff figured out. I'm like, I still screwed up as much as everybody else. And this would be a really big example. And I will tell you that where I had to do the work was to look at my own leadership style and recognize that the reason that they had learned helplessness is because I created an environment where the path of least resistance for them to do their job was for me to tell them what to do. And so I was positively reinforcing the bad behavior because we had this culture where we had a bunch of brand new people. And so nobody knew what they were doing. And so I just took control and was like, I'm just going to direct everybody. And then I never shifted out of that mode and into, well, you guys have been here long enough. What do you think you should do next? I just became the person who would, well, I'm done with that. What would you like me to do next? And then before I realized it, nobody was taking initiative. Like someone was having to direct them all day long. And I would try and get something done off the floor, and I couldn't go 5 minutes without being interrupted. And it was really painful experience for me to have to look at myself and realize, oh, I did this. I created this monkey. This is 100% my circus. And that helplessness on their part was totally learned because I taught them that coming to me and asking me what they should do next was something I was going to positively reward. Hey, great question. Thanks for asking. Like, yeah, you can go and do this thing. Yeah, you can go and do this thing. And in the moment, I was like, oh, cool. I'm keeping them busy. They're working really hard. Like I didn't stop to consider the negative consequences of teaching them that behavior. And so I think the second piece is that since this is a systemic problem, it sounds like from the letter, part of it has to be to look at your culture and your leadership and see, like, are you, to your point, are you training them with treats? Like maybe you're not negatively reinforcing them. Maybe you're not slapping back at them when they've are taking initiative. Maybe that's not the reason that they're doing it, but maybe they're doing it because you're rewarding them positively for being helpless.
No, I think you're right on. There's definitely something. There's some dynamic like this that's going on that's, setting this system up to be this way. I think you're spot on. I think the path of least resistance is a fantastic call out. I think that is one that we see again and again where it takes effort to think ahead and anticipate what we're doing. And it's easy to wait and to be told. And again, it doesn't mean people aren't bad. They're not lazy. They're just, again, they're simple animals. And this is kind of how we train them is we tell them, oh, it's easier on you if you just wait to be told what to do.
Yes.
And then you never have to go back and redo the work. And so anyway, I think this is good. I think this is good headspace. This seems like a very doable issue. Yeah, I think I can get into some action steps.
I think so too. I mean, but what I will say is that from a headspace perspective, it's kind of an action step too, but more leaders, more managers is not going to solve this problem.
Yes. I think you're right. Yes. No, 100%.
It's not going to solve this problem.
Yeah. More cooks in the kitchen is not the answer. I completely agree. You either don't have the right people, which is possible, but I doubt it if it's really happening at scale.
Yeah.
You either don't have the right people or you've got a problem. And if you add more managers in there, you're just going to have more people sort of making things complex.
Yes. Yes, yeah. I totally agree. Well, do you want to take a break and then kind of dive into the action steps?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's get into some action steps here. I think the first one we are very, very, very aligned on, which is you got to get curious.
Yeah.
We have got to do some diagnostics here. And what this looks like for me is your informal low stakes conversations. You need to pull people off the floor and just kind of talk to them for a second and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about sort of efficiency in surgery or wherever we are, and just sort of say, you guys, and I'll be very flattering, you guys are, a great team. You are well trained. You know your stuff backwards and forwards. It seems to me sometimes like people wait, and not just one person, but everybody kind of waits to be told what to do. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why are people uncomfortable just jumping in and sort of taking initiative, or are they being encouraged to hold back? Help me understand what do you see? What am I missing? What's going on? And ask your people, and ask a couple of them that, and ask the doctors that. And you see, I would say exactly what I said. There's nothing accusatory about it. It's, hey, I'm not in there. Help me understand. Why do you think they do this?
Yeah.
And if the doctor goes, I don't know, they just need to do their stuff, I would say, yeah, I hear that, but there's a reason that they're leaning back or they're not, moving.
Right.
What is it? Just between you and me, is there anything you say? And they might say, well, Dr. Smith is very picky, and I think that they're afraid of
Demanding.
her.
Yeah.
Whatever. And we're very demanding, or they want things to be just so. And we hear this perfectionist language, or I want to be the boss, sort of language. We see it a lot of different ways. And the unfortunate part of this is your diagnostics continue down a lot of different pathways. And I can't anticipate what they are and tell you, hey, this is how you're going to handle this, and how you're going to handle that. But that diagnostic thing, it really is important. And so I'm going to try to get my head around it. I'm going to try to understand what's going on. I'm going to follow up those leads. I'm going to, just 100% seek to understand. I'm going to be curious over critical all the way.
So I agree with you. And I would start one step further back in terms of, I would think about, my brain automatically wants to think about this medically. And so when we have a herd problem, we have to look at the herd as a whole, but we also have to look at them as individual patients, right? And see who is maybe more symptomatic than the others. And so for me, it's funny, when I was in this position, we have a mutual good friend who I was talking to one day, and I was talking about the hospital, and I made some comment about, just off the cuff, about, oh my God, my whole team is so freaking lazy. I cannot handle them, or something to that effect. It had to do with them being lazy. And luckily for me, this person is wonderful and kind. And they were just like, are you okay? Because that's not a very you comment to make.
Yeah.
And they called me out on my BS. And I realized, it was the beginning of eye-opening to me, my own part in the problem, but also recognizing that I was looking at everybody as a whole instead of as individuals. And so the way that I would approach this is to sit down and think about each member of my team and think, does this person show initiative? And think about them as individual patients and try and figure out, do I have a systemic problem, but I have a couple of people who are sicker than the rest? Or is everybody super sick? Or is everybody just mildly got some flu symptoms? Where are we at here, right? And thinking about it from that herd perspective, but also looking at them as individual patients, because the plan of attack and the way that I go about having those, then to your point, maybe the more in-depth conversations, help me understand more, tell me more about that. I can be more targeted with those conversations. I feel like if I sit down and do the work to kind of think about the team as a whole and see, do I have some individuals on the team who are struggling more than others? Do I have some that are not really struggling, but I'm lumping them in with everybody else? And if the answer is yes, then I have an opportunity to look at those and say, hey, you work a little bit differently than the rest of your peers. Tell me more about that as well, because that's something that you want to, I think, dive into if you do have people that are working differently than the rest of the team, is figure out, well, why are some people able to work really efficiently and take initiative and others are not? Is it that, to your point, is it maybe one doctor or one part of the team that is really struggling? Is it, because I think here what we don't know from the letter is, why is it actually being caused? And I think that is the work that this writer has to do, is to do that, getting curious and doing the work to drill into what is actually happening on the floor. What does it look like and what is causing it, to be able to figure out, okay, now I know what the problem is. The next step is going to be to figure out a plan, but you can't figure out a plan if you don't know what the problem is.
No, I think that's true. So we're going to have to suss it out from a management standpoint and then sort of tackle it. I think there's some things that you're probably going to do no matter what, just to make this work smoothly.
Okay.
And so let's go with just, I don't know, they're just not taking initiative, and we'll sort of go with that. I think regardless of what you find out, you're going to have to correct the problem that is making them not behave this way. And then you're going to have to get in some training, right? And so there's around confidence and clarity are the 2 points I would make on training. People are not going to take initiative if they are not confident about what they're supposed to be doing.
100%.
And so we need to start looking at what are they being expected to do?
Yep.
And do they know how we do that? You know, if they're supposed to be setting up for surgery, do they know what's involved in that? Are they supposed to be moving when an emergency comes through the door? Do they have a checklist? Do they know what's supposed to be required, what we're going to need, what they should be pulling together?
Yeah.
And so the first thing we have to do is build their confidence that they go, yes, I recognize what is happening and I know the checklist that is required. I know what needs to happen. And then the other thing is clarity, which is this is the protocol. You know, I feel confident to act and I know what is required of me. And I would do that in a couple of ways. So we can have them come together and just start to run through our protocols, which I think is good. I would strongly discourage you from lecturing at them. I would have them present the protocols to each other and to you so that they are talking through what they do and making sure that everybody's on the same page. I would think about resources to clarify. Big fan of, of checklists. What's our crash cart checklist? What is our surgery prep checklist? Like if they don't have those resources, now is a good time for us to build those resources because we're going to push them to take initiative. And I want them to be so well supported like they do it while they do it. And then the last thing is I'm going to run drills, and we're going to say, great guys, let's get together real quick. All right, I'm going to tell you guys what is coming through the door. And you're going to pull everything together and walk me through what needs to happen. Great. I'm going to let you guys work in pairs. And so, you're in pairs, you're turn to your partner, and I'm going to tell you guys what's coming in. And then in partners, you're going to figure out your plan and what you need to do. And then you guys together are going to walk me through it. Great. We have a dog that collapsed that's coming into the door and, it is not moving. It was out in the yard, it was playing, and it just fell over. You guys tell me about what you're doing as soon as this dog comes in the door.
Sure.
And let them work in pairs just lowers the stakes a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's start to drill and quiz. And once I know that they know this is what we're supposed to be doing, then I can put that aside. What you don't want to do is start giving them a hard time about not taking initiative when they don't really know what they're doing. You're just going to frustrate them, make them mad, make them feel like they can't succeed, feel like they're being set up to get in trouble or to fail. And so you've got to slow down to go fast. And this is laying the groundwork so that we can go fast.
Well, and I think there's two pieces to that from a training perspective, right? There is the stuff that we think about clarifying and training people on, which is the basics of how to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all the other stuff. And I know for myself and a lot of my peers that we don't always do the best job of making clear what almost all of us in our job descriptions have or other duties as assigned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we want everybody to know that helping with the laundry in a clinic is everybody's job. We always need clean laundry, so everybody has to do it. But if I don't actually say to each member of the team, and part of the training process is not, okay, when your regular checklists are done on any given day, my expectation is that you check in with every other team to see if they need help. But the first thing that needs to be done is that checking all of the spaces in the hospital where we have clean towels because the laundry is the priority, right? If I don't make it really clear what my expectation is, what success looks like for them in that role, they don't, why would they do it? Especially if they're newer, right?
Yeah.
Or they are, every hospital works differently. And so part of my job as a leader is to make sure that I'm giving them clarity on the basic job itself, but also what success looks like and what the tasks and my expectations around their time are. Most of us generally just say, oh yeah, well, we've got a rainy day checklist, or there's always something to be done. And we make the assumption that they're going to interpret there's always something to be done into actually translating that into, oh, I know what should be done, and I'm going to take the initiative to just go and do that thing. you will have people on your team that just have that innate ability to see a problem and go, oh, I can go help try and solve that. Let me take care of that. And there are a lot of people who are not lazy or uninterested. They just don't know what your expectation is for them. And so part of that training has to be looking at what your clarification has been to this point, and then getting crystal clear with them about what the job is, how you expect it to be done, and what success looks like if they are taking initiative and doing the things that you want them to be doing.
No, I think you're spot on. I think you have to train them how to do the laundry before you tell them that the top priority is laundry. You know what I mean? I think you're right on about communicating, this is what is expected. I do think you're probably right. I think some people genuinely think that their job is to wait until they're told what to do, and then they'll do it. And so I think that setting the expectation of initiative, I think, is important. There's ways to sort of drill and train on this as well. It's just sort of ask people, hey, what could you be doing right now to help improve the patient care that we're delivering? Just asking people sort of that question. Here's that old saying, and I think it's just a relationship thing, but don't give someone a test they don't know they're taking, is the saying. And I think that that's quite good. And I do think that there are probably times we have looked at people who are sort of standing around and we're judging them, but they don't know that we're giving them a test they don't know they're taking, and be like, if she doesn't start helping, I'm going to get mad. Well, if you don't communicate to her that this is an issue, or this is what you're paying attention to, then you're giving her a test that she doesn't know that she's taking.
Yes.
And that's not really fair.
No.
There's gentle ways to sort of communicate this. And, but I think, to me, make sure they have clarity on what they're supposed to do and what it looks like and how we do the thing is first. And then I do think that we start to lean in at that point and start to push them towards moving forward. I would say at this point, beyond the training, to make sure that your people generally know what they're doing and what needs to happen in the hospital. And this may start really rudimentary. It's like, hey, guys, let's all get together and talk about what needs to happen so that we can all go home at the end of the day, and laying it all out. But you should start building that out. Part 2 is you're going to have to recruit the doctors. The doctors need to be positively reinforcing initiative and not negatively reinforcing it, because 5 doctors can smile at somebody for jumping ahead and doing their work, but one doctor says, "What are you doing? I don't need that." And you've just wiped away all those smiles. You've strongly negatively reinforced it. So you got to get the doctors on board, let the doctors know the goal, what success looks like, is that, the support staff to be doing more stuff. There's a lot of vets who are like, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And sometimes that is the conversation we need to have. And that can be a hard one, because the truth is your techs cannot take initiative if your doctors are going to get angry at them for doing quote unquote doctor work or something like that. And so that is the number one thing that I see that causes friction, is there are doctors who very much want to point and tell people what to do.
Yeah.
And they have to get sold on the idea that no, the staff they should know what to do, and they're going to do stuff, and you're going to roll with what they're doing. And if you need something they don't bring to you, you're going to politely ask for it. But that, you're not going to make them stop and wait for you to tell them exactly what to do. That's not where we're going.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the doctor buy-in, because the other thing that I see quite frequently when it comes to lack of initiative with the doctors particularly is that you might have a couple of people on the team who do have initiative and who are the driven, just get all the things done. And those ones are the favorite technicians or the favorite VAs, right? Because they're the ones who just do the work. And so what you'll find is that the senior doctor or the more demanding doctor or the doctor who just sees all the things will often steal those people that take initiative. And the rest of the doctors are dealing with the rest of the team, and they're frustrated and they're struggling. But when you don't have doctors who are necessarily natural leaders, or who don't have the drive to say something about the situation. I have seen this on multiple occasions where the doctor team is just frustrated, and because they're like, the team doesn't, they're not. But that's a training thing. That is hey, does the team know how to do the job and know what you expect? And also, do we have an expectation on how our experienced team gets divided amongst the rest of the team, and getting the doctors on board with coaching the team members. Hey, this is what I need. This is how I need it. Hey, I don't have a patient right now. What else could you be doing? Because you as a leader, or especially as a manager, there's only one of you. Sometimes if you're lucky, you've got some assistants, but you can't be in all places all the time. And so to your point, the doctors, especially when it comes to the paraprofessional staff, have to be willing to help coach and redirect the team when it comes to positively reinforcing, and also being very cognizant to not negatively reinforce.
Absolutely. And then we're going to expand that positive reinforcement beyond the doctors. That's the next step. You are not there every day. And again, we know that we train people with positive reinforcement. That's how we train them. And you're not in there every day. And so how do we create a culture that positively reinforce people taking initiative? And this is fun. This is an opportunity. This is a chance to get creative. How are you going to do it? How are you going to celebrate it? I mean, you could do everything from coming up with a taking the lead award or something like that. Celebration bucks. If you see someone who's jumping up, taking initiative, doing something they weren't asked to do, you're going to write their name down and what you saw them doing, and you're going to put it into this box. And we are going to, we're going to celebrate them. We're going to give bonuses. We're going to do a drawing. We're going to do whatever. We're going to call these people out at the next staff meeting or at the morning huddle. We're going to say, yesterday, this is the celebrations that we got. Start celebrating people taking initiative. And it shouldn't just be from you. Figure out how to make a culture of it. Get people to celebrate each other. And now I'm sending very clear messaging about what is expected. And I'm not being a jerk about it as far as, I expect you guys to not just stand there, but to jump in and do things.
Right.
And you can't punish people into a great culture. We need to start figuring out how to celebrate the behaviors that we want. And again, the best thing is if you can get the staff to celebrate and call out each other.
Yes.
Because you're just not there enough. But that's how you get the volume of, hey, this is what we want to see, guys. And again, it's really just been removing any obstacles that are preventing this behavior. It has been making sure everyone feels confident and comfortable and clear about what the behaviors are, what they're supposed to actually do, and then set up a culture of positive experiences and praise and celebration for the people who demonstrate those behaviors. And then, my friends, now we've got the flywheel going. That's how you set up the system so that you can start to really affect change. And so, I think once you start to set that stuff up, the only thing that's left after that is to make sure that you're celebrating and continue to celebrate people who are showing initiative. Remember, with your training programs, especially when having a problem, go heavy on the recognition and celebration. You're not going to keep this up forever, but if it has really been a problem, go heavy on it. And it's something that we will probably decrease our celebration of over time. There will be something different that we're going to need to affect and we're going to need to change. And we'll start to focus on that and celebrate that. But getting this behavior going, it's just like training behaviors with pets. Lean in heavy at the beginning, lots of treats, lots of celebration. Over a couple of months as they start to get it down, we can start to be less maybe celebratory or less consistent in our positive reinforcement, and the behavior will still stick around. And so anyway, that's that for me. The only thing that's left after that in my mind, Stephanie, is to start holding people accountable who are not taking initiative, and to figure out what we're going to do with them. Because at this point, the rest of the team should be moving forward. If no one is moving forward, you still have a significant barrier somewhere that you haven't found.
Yes. And I think I would agree with that. And I think that is the other piece of this from a leadership perspective, is that you have to give them the training, show them what you expect of them, and teach them how to actually do it. And then there has to be accountability. So when things don't go wrong, instead of it being this slide into, because this team didn't get this way overnight. Like this, I promise that this hospital, this was a slow slide into this state where nobody is taking initiative. And so you got to work really hard to not let that be the case moving forward. And so continuing to reward it. And then when things don't happen, having the culture of accountability and saying, hey, like, this is not, we agreed that we're going to help each other as a team. What happened? How come you left without all of your stuff being done yesterday? Or, whatever. Like, that's it's those conversations. And I think those accountability conversations a lot of the time we struggle with, because we're like, well, they know that's what is expected of them. And so they should just do the thing because it's their job. That's not how the world works. Like, it would be great if everybody showed up and had their best adult face on, but we know that doesn't happen every day. And so what I will say is it is okay. And we may have some people within our teams who need more structure and need more high direction. Some people just don't have it built into them to be as an initiative focused as others. And if you have a big enough team, that can be okay to a degree. But when you have a whole team that requires constant handholding and being led, that's when it becomes problematic. And so I think the last thing is being okay with the fact that you might have some people who are, when you think about it from the herd perspective, the herd winds up okay, but you have one or two people that don't stay long term, that aren't the right fit, that aren't going to be able to figure it out, and be okay with finding that lack of it, because you'll be better off for it in the long run.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you're spot on. This always brings about a time of change. If you do this well and it catches on and people start to jump up and move, there will be some people, as you said, they're not going to change. They were behaving how they want to behave, and it can be painful. What's funny is you'll look at the team right now and you're like, my team doesn't do this. And then 3 months from now, you'll be like, Stephanie and Marcus don't do this. And the truth is, Stephanie and Marcus have never, this is not a new behavior. It will feel like a new behavior.
Right.
It's because you're looking at them relative to the rest of the team. And historically, they've been the same as everybody else. And so you will see those things. I think you're spot on. I think you've got two options sort of here. I think you can start to work with people who are not getting on board. And we're going to do the plagues, as we do, where we start very, very soft and increase our directness as we continue to sort of see them not jumping in and taking initiative and waiting to be told what to do. We're going to start talking to them a little bit more. We're going to talk to them in a developmental framework about how we want to see them grow and progress and things like that. And we're going to sort of keep working on that stuff. And ultimately, so the two outcomes are going to be, they're either going to need to grow in their willingness to take initiative and things like that, or they might be someone who is going to wait to be told what to do. And there are people that you will know that you will just be that way. Like they will be a part of the team. You have to decide, are you okay with having someone who is going to wait to be told what to do?
Right.
Those people are of a lower financial value than people who jump in and just take care of things. They see problems and they get them done. They just are.
Right.
And so I would say during the developmental conversations, this is going to be career limiting. It really is. If you're going to continue to wait to be told what to do, then you're always going to be in an assistant role instead of how I imagine a technician role is, where I have a person who knows their stuff and acts on it. And so anyway, there are hospitals where you go, I'm totally happy to have somebody who just waits to be told what to do. If that's your hospital and you're staffed for it, that's fine. I think that they're probably going to fall into a compensation level that mirrors the fact that they are someone who waits to be told what to do, as opposed to someone who really jumps in and makes things happen. And so I can be okay having those people, but, we need to be honest with them about sort of why they are the assistant level that they are, where they are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that they are, sort of self-limiting. There's not a lot of opportunities, and I don't have a strong desire to invest into people who are going to stand around and wait for me to tell them what to do.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I like it.
Yeah, that's what I got. I said, I think that there's the big question here that we did not answer and we can't answer is, what is happening that has made this culture exist in the first place? Yeah. And I hope that it's nothing. I hope it's like, that's just how it's been. And we can start some training programs. And I think we laid that down pretty well of how you approach this. I think that probably the secret story is going to be one of, this is a thing that has motivated people to wait to be told what to do. I would love to hear that in the mailbag of, hey, we did some homework and this is what we found. How would you handle that? And we'll have another episode.
Yeah, I would love that. It's a solvable problem. It just takes some time and effort.
Totally. Yeah, and also I would say this is not a 3-week problem. No. Don't kid yourself. This is going to be a 2025 problem. Yeah. And it's what we should work on, and it's how we're going to make a move. I think one thing that I didn't put on my list, now I'm thinking about it, would be, I think it would be interesting to try to figure out, how are you going to measure progress here? Like, what are your benchmarks? Are you checking the security? Are you doing a quick security camera audit to see who's standing around or how much they're standing around? I don't exactly know. I'd have to think more on it, but I think it would be interesting to see how far you can come.
Right.
And, but it's going to take months, not weeks.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Cool.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Have a great week, everyone.
Take care, gang.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. Thanks for joining us and spending your week with us. If you enjoyed this week's episode, head over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It's the best way to let us know that you love listening. We'll see you next time.